Yo guys, what's going on? Remember Warshack here. We actually have a small balance change. We got some nerfs to some overperforming cards in some overperforming decks. This is pretty standard amongst when an expansion releases, especially when we have a rotation and a new expansion, that there will be some sort of balance change, whether it's when Demon Hunter came out and they had to do 24-hour emergency patch for like 5 or 6 cards, or it's a little bit later like we see here. The meta's still shaping out. Honestly, a lot of the decks in most classes seem to be doing okay. But again, we do have some overperformers. If I can pull up the list here, from the top, we have Paladin, Death Knight, Demon Hunter, all very high in the green, well over that 55% mark. And then we have Hunter, Priest, Shaman, Warlock, Rogue, following suit. And of course, Warrior in the absolute bottom. We pretty much saw this coming before the rotation, but we didn't know the exactsies. So looking at what got changed for Death Knight, we have the Construct Quarter. This already actually got nerfed once. This used to be 3 mana at 3 durability. It was absolutely broken. They changed it to 4 mana with 3 durability. Still sees play in every single Death Knight deck. There's no reason you wouldn't play this card. And now it's at 2 durability. So this card is basically dead now. This card, in my opinion, is not very good anymore. And this was one of the main factors propping up a lot of the more aggressive style Death Knight decks. So with this change here, maybe the card is playable, maybe, but I don't think so. Like, I don't think Blood DKs are going to run this anymore. I don't even know if you can afford to play this in aggro Death Knight, because you're paying 4 mana for a 4/10 over the course of 4 turns, and you paid 4 mana for it. So it's just a lot slower, a lot less value in this card now. So like I said, not only did they end up cutting the mana, but they also cut the durability. I would have preferred keep the durability and just bring the minion down to like a 4/3 with rush or a 4/4 with rush. Give it the same durability, just cut the stats on the minion it brings out. Because the problem is the minion is able to trade and then it lives. So if you can just kill one of their own minions, get the corpse, trigger the death rattle, whatever, proc the egg, trade, and then it dies, I don't really mind that so much, right? So I think they just overkilled Construct Quarter, in my opinion. We already knew Death Knight coming into this expansion was going to be the best class, or at least I did, because they didn't lose anything. Death Knight was already previously one of the best classes to play, whether you're looking at Aggro Unholy, whether you were looking at the Frost Death Knight deck, and even Blood was doing okay, right? And we had the rotation, so all the other classes lost 3 expansions worth of cards, making them a lot weaker, while Death Knight lost no expansions. No card from Death Knight has been lost yet. Therefore, it has to be the strongest class. Like, it just didn't get any changes to it. It only got better. It only got cards, right? So Death Knight being one of the better classes makes sense. Construct Quarter being one of the better cards in that deck, which already got nerfed, makes sense. But this was a little overkill in my opinion. Death Knight being good doesn't bother me. Having 3 iterations of Death Knight, whether actually 4, whether you're playing like Blood Death Knight, Frost Death Knight, Unholy Death Knight, Rainbow Death Knight, I think those iterations, they all should be good in their own separate way. And this card was it was pretty important to the success of a lot of the Death Knight decks that aren't so good, but maybe relying on one card isn't the best either. So anyway, they killed this card. I don't think it's good anymore at all. Looking at Demon Hunter, Outcast Demon Hunter. So Vengeful Walloper, a card that literally saw no play whatsoever, unless you came to my stream in the previous expansion. Nobody played Outcast Demon Hunter. It sucked. And my opinion, it's still like not super great. I think the Relic package with some Outcast cards are good. I don't think it's really Walloper that's OP, to be honest. Yeah, it's good, but I don't think this was a problem card. I think if we're gonna hit some problem cards, it's gonna be, again, the relics, the discounts, something along those lines. They already discounted Relic of Dimension. It used to be 5 mana, now it's 6. I don't think you can pump it to 7, but there's other things that we can do to decrease the power level of Demon Hunter, and Walloper just seemed like a really weird hit to me, but Blizzard has a lot of stats on cards that we don't have. And if Walloper was standing out, then Walloper was standing out. We'll see how this affects Demon Hunter. It really hasn't been a problem for me. It's one of those decks that puts a lot of stuff on the board. If you kill the board, they do it again. You kill that board, you win. Like, it's not. I didn't really have a problem with Demon Hunter right now. And it was even a harder deck to play, right? Outcast Demon Hunter isn't easy. So interesting card to hit. It didn't even last 3 or 4 days into the new expansion without getting nerfed after seeing no play for what, a year? So Walloper is very interesting. Would like to hear what you guys have to say on that one. Light Right Light Ray is fine card to get hit. I don't like this card at all. I think it's super bland, super boring. I've never liked Light Ray. Playing Order in the Court and then playing 0 mana 5/5s with Taunt is obnoxious. I know Walloper is kind of under the same thing as Light Ray. Like, oh, you just cost 1 less for each Outcast. Outcasts are actually harder cards to play because they require, the Outcast. It's not just play Paladin cards. Like, you're just playing a deck filled with Paladin cards, and then you play them, which is what you're gonna do anyway, and then you get a 0 mana 5/5. You know what I'm saying? There's a little bit of a difference here that I think Light Ray is like substantially more bland and less flavorful than Vengeful Walloper. I don't like the Pure Paladin. It's been a deck that's been one of Paladin's main archetype for a long time now. However, I do really enjoy the Countress. I think the legendary tickets are very fun, very wacky, good for YouTube. I don't believe that just playing only Paladin cards. Like, if she was something else that didn't require Pure Paladin, then I'll be all for that too. The effect of her is fine. The fact that she's found in Pure Paladin is sad, but Light Ray getting changed. This guy comes out too early, in my opinion. Being able to play 2 0 mana 5/5s on turn like 4 or 5 is just not very fun for me. It's not probably fun for you either. So that's fine. And it's an elemental and a beast, so it always gets drawn with Curator, the Curator. So yeah, this being changed, totally fine. 100% cool with that. So those are all of the current cards that are getting changed. That update's going to come out today. Some cards that I would really like to see buffed. So today was just a nerfs for the standout class. Some stuff that I would really like to see buffed. One of them being Rainbow DK. This card is atrocious. So it looks good. You think it's good, and then you realize it's bad. And I played with this card a lot. Rainbow DK somehow actually was one of my best performing decks, but it wasn't because of this card. It was just because DK is good. But the problem with this card is two different things. So you want to improve this card, and you do it by spending corpses. Currently, Corpse Bride and the new Unholy card that spends 5 corpses are really your only corpse spenders in a Rainbow DK. So you're very limited on how many corpses you can spend, period, off the bat, right? It's not like you can run Lord Marrowgar, but if you run Amalgam, you can try to get him. So when this card, whether the damage is increasing or the minions are increasing, the thing is, there's 4 different things that you have to spend corpses on to increase. So like if you're summoning the souls, you can summon, like, their attack and health are different spenders. The amount you summon is a different spender, and then the damage is a different spender. So you either change that the stats of the minion, you give it +1 and plus 1 attack and +1 health for 1 soul being spent, right? Or so there's only 3 things to spend on, or you give the minions rush. When you play this card and you deal like 8 damage for lifesteal and you spent 10 mana and you summon a board full of minions that can't do anything, and then you go against Blood DK and they play Soul Stealer, it feels bad. So the minions that get summoned from this, either 1 need rush, or like I said, 2, the stats of the minion are improved by just 1, like you get an attack and a health through 1 corpse being spent. Not the attack and health are different. So like right now you could spend 5 corpses and summon 2 5/1 souls instead of being 2 5/5 souls. You know what I mean? So you have to spend so many souls to make this card good. And the reason being is stuff like Lord Marrowgar. If you like, spend 30 souls on that card, this could do a lot of damage. But the thing is, this is 10 mana. Lord Marrowgar requires souls. A lot of things are dying. You have to randomly generate. There's a lot of things that have to line up to make this card really OP. And there's just better ways to play an OTK deck, right? So like, just make this card semi-playable. Give the minions rush, or change the way the soul spent mechanic works with HP. I think that would make the card a lot more fun, and then potentially maybe playable in some like tier 4 meme deck. Another card that they're not going to ever change, but I wish they would have just made better this card. So there's like no reason for this card to exist. This is Taunt Death Rattle. Both players draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, and destroy the top 2 cards of their deck. This should just say, you draw 2 cards, your opponents discard 2 cards, and they destroy the top 2 cards of their deck. So it should be a net positive for you and a net negative for your opponent. Like, make it cost 6 mana if it does that. You know what I mean? Just like, this is going to be an unplayable card forever. Like, this is just a waste of a legendary card in the Warlock deck. Like, this is so bad, and I don't know why they printed this. It's just really not cool. Like, this is just a waste. Warlock is in a really bad spot right now. Unless you're just playing, like, Curse Imp Warlock, or, like, just some deck that's already existed. But yeah, most of these Warlock cards are really bad. Obviously, something that can go unspoken, Rifts. The Rifts are horrible. This is like so basically, it's a worse Relic mechanic. They don't grow over time. They have a requirement for finale. Finale isn't a fan, like it's not that fun nor good of a keyword. It's not great. So these cards are horrible. Warrior's the last deck in the list, which by the way, we hit Legend. It was my first deck that we played. Of course, I love Warrior. We hit Legend with Warrior on day 1 of the new expansion, Control Warrior, and I'll post that video up soon. So we actually did well with Warrior, but for the remainder of everybody else, nobody's playing it. It's terrible and it sucks. So rifts, these should get buffed. Reduce all rifts by like 1 mana. And then maybe they're playable somewhere. Another card, this should be 2 mana, or it gives +2/+2 for each minion type you've played. This has the potential to be good, but this card is just terrible as is. The thing is, like, you're not able to play this card on turn 3 because you haven't played all of the other minions that make this card powerful. So either 1, you give it more stats so it gets to powerful more quicker. 2, you make the card bigger so it matches the mana cost of when you play the card with the current ability it has, or just make it less mana so like it feels less bad to play. You got, it's just for the mana cost with the stats, with the ability, nothing here makes sense. This card is unplayable as is. Like, it's a card that requires you to play other cards before it's good. The amount it gains is not good. The deck it's played into is not good. Its current stats are not good, and the mana cost doesn't make sense. So I don't know about this card, but I think that card could be good if it was changed in a way that makes it be able to be good. Besides that, those are like the standout cards that I've played with so far that I could see get changed, and it would make the meta and some of these fringe decks a lot better. With that, what do you guys think of the nerfs? What do you think of my suggestions? And do you have any other cards that you think should be buffed that are like almost there but just not there yet? So, of course, with that, thanks for watching, guys. I'm Robert Warshack. Happy whatever the hell day it is.